This is a short bite episode of Homeschool Together. Hello and welcome to Homeschool Together. Thanks so much for joining us. This is a short bite edition. We're going to be talking about a game that Ariel and I played a number of times on our latest vacation.
Yeah.
Railroad Inc. Hear the train a-coming. It's coming round the bend.
Yep. So Railroad Inc. This
Railroad
is
Inc.
designed by Halmar Hatch and Lorenzo Silva for Horrible Guild, and this is a roll and write game. So it says ages 8+. I definitely think that our kiddo could play this. At almost 7. Although I think for the strategy, you might need to be a little bit older. It plays 1 to 6 players, so you can definitely play this solo, and it takes about 30 minutes. There are various editions of this game, and if you combine them, you could get to play up to 12 folks. So if you have a bigger family and you regularly play with 10 or something crazy, this is a great game for you.
How many can this one play?
This one, just one edition, will play 6.
6.
So you could definitely, can expand with this one. So why don't you tell them what it's about?
Well, it's such a fun little game. First of all, just the size and shape is perfect for that date night.
It's like a 6x6 box.
Yeah,
maybe?
a little 6x6 box. Super small, almost like a card that has a little flap on the top. It's a grid pattern.
It's to hide my moves from you.
I know, it's my super moves. Basically, what you're doing is you're trying to lay essentially little tiles onto this game. But instead of laying the tiles, you have to draw the tiles. And where do you get the tiles? From a series of dice that you roll.
Yeah, and the dice have railroads and roads.
Yeah, and there's a mixture of the two. Sometimes they're just railroads, sometimes they're roads. And they're very much like Tetris, where you can flip them, rotate them, mirror them, whatever you want to do. And then some of them have roads that end in stations. Some that have roads that end in train stations or roads. It was like a train and then a road. Sometimes they have bridges that you can go
there's
under.
An overpass.
And basically what you're trying to do is almost like Sorrow, right? Where you're trying to build a path and a winding path.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit,
I think
right?
that this one's interesting. Basically, it has a grid on it, and the grid is a 7x7, and around the outside of the grid, there are alternating roads and railroads that enter the grid. So what happens is you're going to roll a series of 4 dice on your turn, and everybody in the game has to play those same 4 dice, and you're going to arrange them to your best advantage on your board, and it's all with a dry erase marker. And it really works well. They erase nicely.
That's a great surface.
I appreciate it's a nice slick surface.
Very, very small and compact. As we said, we
Right.
got to play it at a bar that we went to.
Yeah. We've you can pack it up super quick.
A great camping game.
So what you're trying to do, the goal is to connect your lines and try to connect as many of these exits off the grid as you can. So I start with a road over on the top left, and I want to get over to as many other outlets of the grid as I can. Yeah. You're trying to get the longest road. So that's one score is how many exits do you connect, and then the longest road's another score. Your longest track is another score, and how many you play in the very center of the board is extra score.
There's a green square in the middle. Yeah,
it's a 9x9 in the very center because it's obviously easier to play towards the outside, so you can connect more of the exits. But if you play in the middle, you get bonus points for that. Yeah. And then the kicker here is you get negative points for every piece of track or road that just doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, you didn't finish it for whatever reason. So you really you're trying to lay these dice down pretty strategically because if you
it can get very frustrating when you're not getting.
You're like, I just need this one die. But luckily, there are 6 super die, super configurations that are on the top of your board, and they're configurations that don't exist on the die, like a 4-way highway intersection, for example, or a 4-way railway intersection. That's not on the dice. And you can use 2 of these per game. Yep. To help you out. So if you get really in a jam, you could do that.
You get stuck in a certain situation.
So you're kind of trying to bail me out. Yeah. Exactly. And you're trying to kind of balance between putting something down and now I'm opening myself up to another couple of dead ends, right?
And how many rolls are there?
There are 7 rounds.
7 rounds. Yeah.
So after 7 rounds, it's over.
Very quick game.
It is very quick.
28 dice combinations are all you're ever going to play in this game.
Exactly. And so you don't have a lot of time and you can't see what your opponent is doing. So you don't really know, like, am I ahead or not? And that's why there's a solo mode. You really could play by yourself. There is no player interaction in this one. And in this, we have the Blazing Red edition, so which comes with the basic dice. But and also a couple of expansions for lava and meteors. So in the base game, it doesn't really matter who rolls the dice because there's no real advantage to it being your turn or I mean, nothing really happens. In the expansions, if you play with like the meteor, when you roll, again, it still doesn't really matter, I guess, whose turn it is. It tells you what direction the meteor will strike. So you replace, I think you replace a couple of the dice, I believe, with the expansion dice, and you roll those. And then lava will build basically like lakes of lava you have to go around. So we actually, honestly, have not gotten to the expansion yet because we enjoy playing the base game so much. Yeah. We haven't done this, but every edition of Railroading comes with 2 expansions. So I think that the red edition, we've got lava and meteor. The blue edition comes with, I think, lakes and rivers, maybe. Cool. So each one comes with 3 different ways to play. And I think this is, I mean, it's pretty cheap, under $20.
That's a great game.
I mean, it's compact. It would be great to take camping or, anything like that. It's so slim and easy to carry, and you just need 4 dice to play. So we loved playing it on our trip. It was great.
Yeah, this is one of those games where you can sit down and have a nice slow dinner and play, or play with the kids. I'm actually excited about maybe taking this out and having us play with the older one and seeing if she can play the game, because it's a very simple concept from the standpoint of playing the dice and the configurations that are rolled and then putting them onto your board in a workable configuration. And pretty much it's very hard not to be able to play a dice. It's just you have to make the decision whether or not you want to open up a new line, whether it's a train track or it's a road, and then the consequences of that if you don't not able to complete that. I think this is one of those games that, if you like things like Welcome to, Cartographers, these really great roll and writes, these artistic games that are always played on kind of a grid mindset, like kind of a grid format, I think this is just really, really, really on point game. It's really short too. Like it only takes us about 15 minutes to play at the most.
Or less. Really, it depends how quickly you make your decisions. Since everybody writes down at the same time, it's really only 7 rolls. If you think about it that way, it's like, well, how fast could I roll 7? Yeah. So if you have somebody that really struggles with analysis paralysis, this is hard. I think we tried to play this with some friends that we have that are big gamers, but they just have a hard time wanting to think of like the perfect move. That would make this game more lengthy, and I think really would gift you to that 30-minute time block. But for us, having a couple of drinks at a restaurant when our kids were at grandma's, we loved just sitting down, and we could play a game in about 10 minutes. Yep. And that was kind of nice, when you were talking about getting frustrated because you don't get the right roll you need. The great thing is the game is short. So it's like, well, I didn't get it this time, but I'll get it next time.
But it also opens up for playing multiple hands of it.
Totally.
It's one of those games that it's so quick and so easy to play that it lends you to playing it more and more and more. And I love those type of games because those end up being kind of your favorites because you end up playing so many times that you end up crafting different strategies. And it doesn't, when you play these long games that take, an hour, like a Terraforming Mars, like it takes you 2 hours to play the game. It's hard to craft, ideas and strategies in those type of games, because you've already invested so much time. And in order to get enough experience, because strategy comes from experience, and to play the game, you got to invest a lot of hours. Yeah. When you have a game like this, it reminds me of like a Lost Cities or a Phase 10 or something of that nature, where you can play a lot of hands of it, and then you can kind of get, okay, this is how I can maximize my potential of scoring points or figuring out the strategy that works best when I start with this type of combination. You really get that experience with this because it is such a short and quick game.
Yeah, I think so too. It's really great for spatial awareness, for kids to plan, strategize, think about it. The probability of getting these different dice that you need. There's a lot of really deep thinking involved in a very small package and a fairly quick game. So I'm excited to try this with our daughter because I think this is really great.
She does really good with silver and gold, and it has a similar element where you're trying to fit a combination into a spot. And I really
right.
like
You have
that.
to see the die and then think about like, okay, if I rotated it or mirrored it, and how does that one die work with the other 3 that I just rolled and the network I already have drawn. So there's really a lot of complex thought that's going on in this one. I think it is a superb little game. It would be, this would make a great gift game too. So we have a link down in the show notes. You can check it out for yourself. And if you want to try it out, you can always play it on Board Game Arena, BGA. That's where I actually played this with some members of our game school co-op. And I was like, oh, I got to get this game. This is really good. So check it out, Railroad Inc. Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time,
happy homeschooling!